Hi, I'm Danielle, and welcome to This Enchanted House. So I talk a lot about aesthetic, like a lot, and I've talked about it in general, and we've talked about how to find your aesthetic, but we've not actually talked about what is my aesthetic. And I thought I'd talk about it today, and I have, and how I got there with how I figured it out for myself, and give you a little bit of a show today. To start with, let me tell you a story. About 5-ish years ago, I started really looking. I've talked about how I was inspired to do aesthetic magic by all the people talking about aesthetic witches, and then I wondered what that would look like. So I'm exploring aesthetic. I'm reading philosophy books. I'm reading books on art and music and how we relate to the world around us through imagery and sound and all this other great stuff. But there's this gnawing question in my mind is like, well, what is your aesthetic? Like, how do you define your aesthetic? And I was really having a hard time with it because I'd see things and I'd be like, oh, like Cottagecore was sort of coming into its own. I was like, oh, I really like that. But I also really like Gothic. But I also really like Steampunk. And I also really like Victoriana. And I also really like this. And I like I'm kind of like a mid-century a little bit over here. And I'm kind of liking this over. And I was like, how do I decide? Should I just pick one? Can I combine them somehow? And the answer came to me one night. I was sitting on the couch watching movies with my husband, and we watched one of my favorite movies based on one of my favorite books, which is Howl's Moving Castle. And I'm sitting there, and I'm realizing as I'm watching Sophie clean the castle that I would love to make my house look like that. And then it pops into my head that this is my aesthetic. Ghibli is my aesthetic. And I'm not the only one who's had that realization. Ghibli-core is a thing. I think, like a lot of aesthetics, it's not something that, like, there's an organization for anything. It's just a lot of people come to the realization, hey, I really like this thing, and then they kind of name it for themselves. Like, I can't name it Ghibli-esque, but I think the world at large calls it Ghibli-core. And, you know, then you're like, oh, well, it snaps, it makes sense, and this is it. If Sewstein has a channel where she sews outfits, and she has recently done 2 great videos making Ghibli-inspired clothes, because she says that's her sort of everyday aesthetic. And so I'll put a link for those below, but for me, and she kind of came to it the same way I did. So yeah, what is Ghibli, and what is Studio Ghibli, and what is Ghibli-core? So Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation studio founded by Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata in 1985. And they're really famous for their kind of family-friendly, fairy tale-like, heartwarming movies. And since 1985, they have produced movies from 1985 until now. There's a lot of creative people involved who've gone on to create movies at other studios. And so the core of it's considered the works of Hayao Miyazaki and his longtime collaborator, Isao Takahata. Miyazaki's kind of the more famous of the two, I would say. He's often referred to as the Japanese Walt Disney, and in kind of the same way that Disney created his studios and his movies. Miyazaki has created this sort of empire of his. So what is it about Ghibli movies? In my video about finding your aesthetic, I talked about keywords. And Ghibli movies just hit a lot of my keywords. Things like home is important to me and family. Friendship, nature, coziness, enjoying the little everyday things. Magic, of course. And adventure and exploration and just having fun with things. So the movies incorporate that. And the thing is, like I was talking about, I have all these different aesthetics. The movies each have their own aesthetics, but they're sort of like, if I say Ghibli, there's images that come to people's mind. There's a certain sort of overall aesthetic to movies, even though some of them are vastly different. Something like My Neighbor Totoro is vastly different from Princess Mononoke. but yet there's still sort of a unification there, a certain style that makes you feel that evokes sort of the same feelings. So, but that works out great for me because I love taking different aesthetics and kind of making them into my own version of them. My aesthetic is really similar to the Studio Ghibli aesthetic, and I really want the sense of warmness and welcomeness, the sense of belonging, the sense of fun and hope. So, for the longest time, I thought the best way to talk to you about my aesthetic would be to show it to you. And you kind of have seen it in my way I dress and my house behind me here. But I really wanted to do is create a lookbook. I love lookbook videos and want to kind of create my own using my aesthetic. Because my aesthetic is lots of different aesthetics, but there's sort of a cohesive thread there. That, like Studio Ghibli, I can go in different directions, but still have it kind of belong. So I've kind of narrowed it down to 4 basic aesthetics that I'm really into, that I've tried to incorporate into both in my way I dress and around my house. So these are the 4, I guess we can call them sub-aesthetics. These are aesthetics that I'm definitely into and I definitely like. And so the first one is Cottagecore, which should surprise no one. I've talked about how much I like Cottagecore. I've done reviews of Cottagecore books. So Cottagecore, the basic idea, the basic aesthetic is the idea of living in the cottage in the woods. And it's very cozy, it's very home, there's a connection with nature involved, and there's a lot of Ghibli movies that fall into this. There's My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Secret World of Arrietty, Howl's Moving Castle has some elements of it, and When Marnie Was There. These are all great movies, and they all have this idea of home and cottage and in the woods and nature. So my second aesthetic is academia. Now, people usually go light academia or dark academia. I like both, honestly. I don't know if gray academia is a thing, but maybe if it is, let me know below. But I like elements of both. I will say this is sort of the biggest stretch-wise with Ghibli movies, but Studio Ghibli and its associate studios. And I should kind of point out here, I'm also going to kind of go outside Studio Ghibli a little bit and reference movies that were made by people who worked for Studio Ghibli, like some Miyazaki things that he made before the studio was founded and stuff like that. So I am stretching it a little bit. That said, so academia is a good one because there's a lot of school stories in Ghibli movies, and it focuses most of them focus on the Japanese school system, but there's all sorts of elements of like learning and books and knowledge and these ideas of studying. So academias can include Ocean Waves, Whispers of the Heart, From Up on Poppy Hill, The Wind Rises, and Mary and the Witch's Flower. Alright, next up, not another surprise for anyone who's watched this channel, is steampunk. I love steampunk. I've been in steampunk for a while now, for over a decade. It's more of a go out and do things sort of aesthetic, but I do have elements of around my house too. It's and it's something it's a genre I love to play in, so it's an aesthetic I love to play in. Steampunk is all about combining old and new, hence the punk part is like, taking apart the old and reimagining it into something new. There's ideas of adventure and innovation and exploring, and there's this whole fantastical element that sort of has a sort of an out-of-this-world feel to it. And there's a lot of steampunk in Studio Ghibli, and honestly, Ghibli could be considered the originator of steampunk because a lot of the stuff I'm going to mention predates steampunk as a thing. But obviously, there's Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, Porco Rosso, Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, and because my daughter will not forgive me if I do not mention her favorite video game, Ni no Kuni, also has some very steampunk elements. Yes, they also have worked on other things, including TV shows, commercials, and video games. They've also done artwork and stuff for that. But the main thing they're known for is their movies. So the last aesthetic is witchy. Now, I could go say witchcore, because that is a thing, but for me, I like witchy better. I'm going to stick with witchy. but that's, I don't know. We don't need to stick core and punk on the end of every aesthetic. I don't mind, I guess, but I don't know. I guess it's a personal issue. It's a personal preference thing, I guess. So, but yeah, so witchy. So things that have involved magic. We see connections with nature again, spirituality, otherworldly things. And there's once again a lot of Ghibli movies fall into this. Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, The Cat Returns, Ponyo, and Mary and the Witch's Flower. Oh, and of course Ni no Kuni, because I have to mention that video game again. I hope you're happy, Aurora. No, please, honestly, it's a great game and you should check it out. But anyways, I really wanted to create this lookbook video for a while. It was one of the original videos I had planned on doing, and then COVID hit. And so my original plan was to go out and find some really fantastic locations. I had whole ideas of where I could go near my house and film these and then put it together. But then COVID happened, and I don't know, for some of them I have to wear a mask. I didn't really want to wear a mask. I really wanted to, I don't know, maybe you want to hide my face. Maybe you don't like my face. If you don't like my face, why are you watching my videos? And I don't know. Anyways, so I really wanted to do that, but it just didn't seem like it's gonna happen. And more recently, I was thinking, like, I've been trying to push myself to do things. It's like, you know what? Your house is also your aesthetics, and I mean, I know that the backdrops have kind of gotten familiar if you've been watching my channel, but you know what? I like my house. I like how it looks. So I want to show it off. So I've done 4 different looks, one for each aesthetic. They're filmed around different parts of my house, mainly my living room and my dining room. Though you will get a peek in the study, which I haven't done anything in yet. So, and the wonderful academia chaos in there. So I hope you enjoy this. And I'd love to hear your comments on it, and I'd love to hear what aesthetics you're into and how you incorporate different aesthetics together and how you've created your own personal aesthetic. So, enjoy!
ready. Drop.
So that was my lookbook. It was a first attempt. I'm hoping to do more. I'm hoping to explore more aesthetics in general, and both, you know, me creating them here and just exploring them in the outside world. We'll see how we'll see how things go. If you like this video, please give it a like. Please check out more of my other videos. If you subscribe to my channel, you can keep up to date on what's going on with my videos. I have social media if you want to connect with me there. My Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are below. I have a Patreon channel, and there is going to be a new video up there that will be free to everyone if you want to go check it out. Where I'm going to talk about what some of the more mechanics of what I want to do with this channel. So I hope you are all have an enchanted day, and I will see you next time. Bye!